Welcome everybody to another draft profile video. Today I'm going to be talking about Oklahoma defensive tackle David Stone. A consensus defensive tackle 1, 2, 3 in the 2027 class. You're not going to find anybody that has him too crazy low, but you'll find a mixture of people that have him as the best defensive tackle or maybe the second best defensive tackle. I personally have him as defensive tackle 1, although it is a really good interior defensive line class this year. I think it's going to be much better than last year. Just as far as top end talent goes, I think you have a couple of guys that could kind of etch their name into that first round conversation. I think obviously David Stone. I think if Amari Washington would have declared he would have went round 1 last year, maybe really early round 2, kind of in that in like the Caden McDonald range, early second. And you got other guys like AJ Holmes out of Texas Tech, AJ Holmes Jr. out of Texas Tech. You have Ahmad Moten out of Miami. You have Mateen Ibaragwa, I think is how you say it. I don't know, I probably just fucked that up, but transferred to Texas Tech. It's just a really good defensive tackle class this year, and I personally think it's headlined by David Stone. So originally, David Stone came from Del City, Oklahoma. It's kind of near Oklahoma City. And I'm just reading off my notes here of all the information, all the personal information I got from my research on David Stone. Started at Del City High School before he went to IMG Academy in Florida. Played his freshman year at Del City, 19 tackles and a sack, limited action. Really came on towards his sophomore and junior years. In high school, was a Max Prep first team All-American, was a consensus 5-star, was a 5-star plus talent, depending on the recruiting site you're looking at. Was a player that every single school in the country wanted, could have went literally anywhere, decided to go to Oklahoma. And that takes us to 2024. In his true freshman season, he saw immediate action. It was incredibly limited, was more of a rotational player behind a really veteran defensive line for Oklahoma. Played in every single game in 2024, but played less than 100 defensive snaps. Showed promise, had a decent grade. According to PFF, he had a 75 plus grade in a lot of different spots as a true freshman and had a decently modest season given the little he played. But transitioning into 2025 is when he took that next step and truly cemented himself as a legitimate prospect in this year's class. He led Oklahoma's defensive line room in snaps, and Oklahoma had Grayson Halton and R. Mason Thomas on that team, 2 NFL draft picks, 2 guys who are projected to play pretty early for their NFL teams. He had 43 tackles, 16 solo. He had a sack and a half. Increased his pressures, increased his tackle for losses to a very significant extent in 2025. He had an 84.9 overall grade according to PFF with an incredible 91.4 grade as a run defender. He is the best run defensive interior defensive lineman in college football with incredible pass rush upside. That's what you're buying into. There were off-field transfer rumors in 2025. Or prior to the 2025 season, he hit the portal for a day, 2 days. I can't remember exactly what it was, but he hit the portal, ended up coming back to Oklahoma, stayed with Oklahoma, matured in that room, became a leader in that room, and now he's poised for a true breakout season to kind of supplement himself as a consensus first-round pick in the 2027 NFL Draft. I'm going to go over some of his strengths, I'm going to go over some of his weaknesses, and why I like the player, why I believe in the player. So starting off with the strengths, David Stone comes with a really unique blend of size, athleticism, power, quickness. I don't want to use the word shiftiness, but given his size, he's incredibly shifty. Listed around 6'3", 6'4", depending on the site you see or the site you look at. We'll obviously get these measurements when he goes to the combine. Somewhere along 35-inch arms, just really good length, really good size. One thing that stood out to me just from a body standpoint is how well he carries his weight. It doesn't look like he's somebody who is 310 pounds of no muscle and just, pure body. This is somebody who is clearly put a lot of time into defining the certain areas of his body that's going to help him succeed, and he moves so quickly and so suddenly and so fluidly for his size. I just have no worries about the size, the measurables at all. I think that's a given right away, and it's kind of why I think if it all comes together, we're talking about a top 10, top 15 pick here. First thing that jumps out to you when you watch the tape is, I mentioned this guy's size, the explosive first step, and the overall athleticism just scream off the page. Quickness off the snap, the ability to shoot gaps and disrupt plays in the backfield. He is a game wrecker. He's a game wrecker, and especially paired with the other absolute monsters that Oklahoma had on the defensive line last year, he was really able to show off his game in certain packages. And a part of that is because how easily he's able to not only shed blockers when they get hands-on, but he's quick enough to just shoot gaps and not even give them a chance. He's quick enough to shoot gaps and not even give offensive linemen the opportunity to get hands underneath pads and win the leverage battle. I think he shows a really, really good ability to redirect offensive linemen and just redirect gaps. He has true sideline to sideline movement skills, lateral movement skills for a defensive tackle. Now, you obviously don't want David Stone running sideline to sideline like he's a linebacker, but at the 3-tech position, the one to wherever you have him playing along the defensive line, he is able to move laterally, quickly, fluidly, never really loses a step, consistently wins the leverage battle, has an incredibly strong upper body, so he's consistently generating movement in towards the backfield, even while moving sideways simultaneously. Just incredibly fluid mover at that size, and it's because of how athletic he is. It's because of how good the first step is. I mentioned it earlier, but he has really powerful hands, really powerful hands, and he's able to use those hands to win the leverage battle incredibly consistently. Active, heavy, violent hands. It gives him the ability to jolt blockers, disengage blockers. He can shed blockers incredibly effectively. And he has a variety of different moves, albeit some moves a lot more efficient and just straight up better than others. You know, we're talking about swipes, clubs, rips. I haven't really seen too much of a spin move in his arsenal, which for a guy that's going to primarily be playing in between other pass rushers, you know, he's never going to jump out to a 9-tech. He's never going to jump outside. That's a move that I don't really care if you have in your bag. If you are incredibly good with your dip and rips, if you're incredibly good winning the leverage battle, which David Stone is, I have no worries about you. And to me, he has the core strength and the overall balance to hold up at the point of attack. He has the lower body strength to kind of stand his ground and supplement himself in gaps. I talked about it in the intro, just with his PFF grades. He's the best run defense defensive tackle in this year's class. I'm bar none. It's not even a close second. Excellent against the run. Strong PFF grade there. 91.4, I believe, is what I said. Led a bunch of the SEC defensive tackles in metrics. Like I said, he stuffs gaps incredibly well, he anchors incredibly well, and just creates stops. You know, just completely eviscerates gaps. You know, there's a gap 1 second, and then David Stone does what David Stone does, and all of a sudden it's a tackle for loss, or it's a tackle for no gain, or it's a tackle for a yard. And like I said at the start, led Oklahoma in defensive lineman snaps for 2025, and still being able to have that kind of dominance, that kind of like just overall assertiveness in the run game, even having played all those snaps at that size, is incredibly impressive to me. Now, you know what you're getting as a run defender with David Stone. What I think we're still waiting to see if he can unlock is the pass rush potential. We're going to use that word throughout the entire cycle for David Stone, is the pass rush potential. Where can he get to? I think we're going to see it very similarly to how we watched Byron Murphy coming out of Texas, Seattle Seahawks. I think we're going to view those two very similarly as prospects, where David Stone's probably going to hover around a consensus first round guy, and then everyone's going to rewatch the tape, and the measurables are going to come out great, and he's going to test well, and all of a sudden he's a first round pick, he's a top 15 pick. That's kind of what I expect to happen. He plays the game with a violent, physical pass rushing style, a pass rushing attack, if you will, that I think NFL teams are going to covet. I know NFL teams covet, especially at that size and frame. And with the pass rush potential, he has this ability to generate pressures with the burst and the power, and he can burn angles really well. It's really just, he has a hard time winning pass rush reps when double team, and it's a lot of, he accepts the responsibility of taking on the double teams because it opens up everybody else. I'd like to see him win more consistently against one-on-one. I felt like, and we'll talk about this in the weaknesses, I won't dive into it too early, but I think that's kind of what we're missing with the pass rush potential, is like he has all the athletic measurables and like the eye test, and he looks like he should be able to do this at an incredibly high level. We just got to see him do it. Talking about the weaknesses, while I think Stone is obviously ahead of majority of his class. I mean, he's the consensus defensive tackle 1 or 2. There's still plenty of development that has to arise for David Stone to become a complete 3-down player in the National Football League. Like I just talked about, the pass rush refinement. The repertoire can be kind of north-south. Sometimes he needs to add a bigger bag of counters. That's something that consistently popped up on film that I was jotting down is, I wish he would have did this. I wish he would have, the lineman has him leveraged to one side. I wish he would have used the lineman's momentum against him with a rip move, or, just whatever it is, a shed, Anything to kind of diversify your bag is what David Stone needs to work on. I put better change of direction sequences and improved finishing to convert pressures into more sacks. So when he gets into the backfield, it's about maintaining angle integrity, not letting the quarterback, kind of understanding, having like a mental map of the offensive line around you, where you can get clipped, where you can get pushed away from the quarterback, and just being able to convert those pressures into sacks. Because at the end of the day, like, pressures are important, but you got to finish the play. And there were a couple of those on tape where, to me, it just looked like David Stone got into the backfield so incredibly quick and just hasn't really seen enough to process what the quarterback can do back there, what angles the quarterback can create to get offensive linemen back in the path of David Stone to make him ineffective as a pass rusher when he's already in the backfield. I said he's the best run defender in this class from the interior defensive lineman position, and I think that stands true, but I still think there's work to be done there from a run anchoring perspective and a consistency perspective. I think the flashes are obviously like top 1, top 2 at the position, and I think he has more flashes than anybody else at the position, hence why I have him at 1 or 2 and why everyone else has him at 1 or 2. But the overcommitting issues can be kind of a problem. The being too aggressive can be kind of a problem, but I'd rather him be more aggressive and it have to be toned down than you have to teach him to be aggressive. You can't really, it's hard to teach guys how to play with more aggression. So I'd just say the overcommitting on the run game, just shooting certain angles too early, shooting certain gaps too early, something he's got to work on. This kind of goes into like the consistency aspect of his game, but he's got to get better on the processing side of the ball. I think he needs to read plays more patiently, I guess. I think it's one of those things where he knows he's bigger, faster, stronger, more skilled, more talented than everybody, so he's just constantly trying to win his matchup right away. And I understand like the thought process in doing that, but sometimes that's just not how plays are needed to be executed from the defensive side of the ball. Sometimes you have to hold a gap, sometimes you have to hold the line as a defensive tackle, and that's something that I think will grow over time. That's something that I think he'll learn. But that's something that I noted as a negative. I just think he needs to play the game more patiently. At the end of the day, I would just like to see the sack total go up. He has 2.5 career sacks, but the pressures and tackle for loss numbers are objectively impressive given the role he's had through 2 years at Oklahoma. I think it's all going to come down to how consistently can he win his pass rush reps, because I know what he's going to give you from a run defense perspective. And I know there's going to be opportunities for him to get one-on-ones consistently at Oklahoma just because of how deep their defensive line is every single year. What Brent Venables does with that program defensively it's a masterpiece to watch. Overall, I expect him to be a top 15 pick. I expect him to be that level of prospect. However, I understand how it could go south. I also understand how he could end up being the first defensive player taken off the board. So I love the player. Still a lot of room to grow, but I think David Stone could be one of them ones, man. Like I truly think he can.